Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I'm going to do it podcast style today. Nothing to see, so just listen along. Mason from Cardinal Gaming put out a video yesterday about a new requirement in the TCGplayer Direct program that sellers maintain a 98% accuracy rate in their replenishment invoices, and I will have a link down below to that video, and you should subscribe to Mason. He is a very level-headed and rational and reasonable person, and we need more voices like his. And so when the notice first came out a couple of weeks ago, I had 3 different patrons message me in various stages of excitement, from minor concern up to kind of full-blown panic about the entirety of their ability to sell singles going away because their accuracy rate was not good enough. Now, in the original email from TCGplayer, they did say that they would be kind of coaching low performers through and helping them out. And when my patrons messaged me about it, I did likewise. I talked with each of them about what they were doing, things they might improve, kind of gave suggestions, asked some questions to try to understand how they handle these things. And what I realized was that when I started selling singles about 2 years ago, I brought a lot of internalized lessons from my career in aerospace engineering, not at Boeing, about quality. And in aerospace engineering, of course, a lot of the times we are building things that must work every time. And failure has a high consequence. And so aerospace is amongst the leading kind of industries in terms of pioneering a safety culture, safety process, design for safety, all of these things. And that gets drilled into you as an engineer in that field. And I brought those things along in terms of making procedures, of having metrics that I track, having policies for what to do when those metrics get out of line, and having real procedures for how do I take new cards that I'm pulling out of a box, how do I sort them into my inventory physically, and then how do I put them into my inventory digitally on the website so that they appear for sale. Where are friction points in the business where I have quality escapes that then move on to my customer, which then I must waste time on and lose money on as a seller? And so I realized that a lot of this was just kind of coming naturally because of my background, and probably would not come so naturally to people who did not have that same background. And so when the email came, I looked at my metrics for my error rate on TCGplayer on my RIs, and it is 0.37%, meaning about 1 in every 270 cards I have an error. And so I believe there are probably a lot of low-hanging fruit that sellers on TCGplayer in the direct program can grab to improve their error rate significantly right away. Things like, if you have employees, do they do things the same way you do? You know, just basic stuff like that. When you're sorting cards, how do you physically keep track of what goes where? You know, do you have a big table where you put boxes, or do you just have a whole bunch of stacks just sitting on a counter? You know, basic kind of logistical things at a low level like that can reduce the overall number of errors. And one of the ones that's always the most impactful for me is, are you tracking any metrics? And if you're tracking metrics, are there things you can do based off of those metrics you're tracking in order to make adjustments if you need to? And I'll give you a story about this that was very recent. I noticed a couple months ago that I was suddenly having much higher number of errors in my RIs. And so I went to my metrics and I looked at what specific RIs they were coming from. I then drilled down into the CSV files for those RIs, and I found that it was surge foils and regular foils from Doctor Who. And what I ultimately realized after digging into it was that if you take a surge foil and a regular foil and you hold them together, at some angles, they both shine the same way, and at other angles, only the surge foiling shines. And so there are some angles you can hold them at where you will mistake a surge foil for a regular foil. And that's what I was doing because I did not appreciate how similar they could look at some angles that you might hold the cards at. And so I was making a bunch of errors, not only in listing my inventory, but in picking the inventory. But because I had metrics, I was able to go in and correct those errors. And so, probably what we need is something like TCGplayer to make a template quality program that new sellers signing up for the platform could basically run their business by. That would be a good way to do it. I'm trying to coach my patrons who are messaging me about similar things, about here's what you can do, and kind of consulting with them on it to help them out. And it seems to be helping them. Hopefully, a lot of these waves that we're seeing and a lot of the kind of panic around it is overblown right now. It would be nice if TCGplayer would kind of confirm or deny something, but hopefully it works out. I think it's an inevitable policy from TCGplayer. They have to have some kind of standard. It needs to be reasonably high in order to reduce friction within the business and keep prices down so the cards keep moving, and so we all keep making money, and so buyers can keep buying cards at the best prices, and the entire market keeps functioning. So that's about all I have to say about that, and I tried filming this and recording this way too many times, and now my throat is sore, but let me know if you have any questions down below or any ideas about this. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.